How's it going, everyone? It's Daikin here, bringing you another Get to Get Stride video. And today we're going to be talking about Happy Chaos. So he's finally within the game, and we're going to be doing a day one overview talking about how to use his normals and his special moves and the properties and all the things that come with it. So let's go and start talking about Happy Chaos. Now, for this day one Happy Chaos overview guide, we're going to be going over 5 basic things. We're going to be going over his normals, his specials, his unique mechanics, a couple of combos to get you started, and some tips and tricks. So let's go and start talking about his normals, starting with his P normals. So his P normals are nothing crazy. 2P, 5P right here. So his 5P is going to just be a standard like swipe. His 2P also the standard swipe. There's not a low or anything like that. And yeah, you could get some basic combos off of, like you do 2P into like 6A, 6P, or you can do it into 6S. There's actually combos, so you can do this into this. So it is a decent 2P and 5P. The 5P doesn't hit crouchers, so just keep that in mind. Now his 5K is actually a pretty good poke. I believe this is like 6 frame startup, so pretty fast startup for the range that it covers. Covers a decent amount of range, and he sticks his foot out, which means he can't be hit underneath. So if we do something like this, you see that he's actually doing a normal, like a crouching normal. And if he does a crouching normal from like say like this, there's nothing for him to hit there. So you can sort of put out a normal, and if people are trying to hit you low, then you have this. So a couple characters have buttons like this, like Melia, for example. Now his 2K is also going to have the same way. So once again, it'll be able to go under normals that are higher up. So it does have a you know, a low crush property like this. So yeah, you can go underneath normals with his 2K and his 5K and make it to where if they are doing low attacks, he can sort of go above that a little bit and hit them. Now his actual 2K, so his 2K can go into his 2D. He has a bunch of command normals, so he could go into like all his command normals. Same thing with his 5K. So his 5K go into it. You get combos from 5K and 5K to 6K. 5K get also go into 6S that also combos. So you get some decent combo options off of these buttons. Now his far slash and 2 slash, his crouching slash are going to be a little bit weird because it's not going to really have any gatlings from it because he doesn't have a standard 5H. So his 5S is going to be something you'll use for a poking tool. Now the one thing to know about this move is it doesn't have a hurt box on it. It actually is disjointed. So this move is disjointed, so you can use it with that in mind. If you're trying to counter poke something, this is a button that can be utilized for that. Now it is highly unsafe on block. It's like -22. You don't want to use it in like block strings and end on this move because you will get punished. Now his 2S is going to be extremely far low. This is a low. This goes extremely far, even farther than his 2D. His 2K also reaches really far, which I forgot to mention. It reaches farther than his 2D as well. But his 2S reaches really far. Once again, it's going to have that same property of being disjoint. So this move is going to be disjointed. So, you know, it is going to be hard for people to actually hit this if you space this outright. Now, combo potentiality from this move isn't going to be the best because of how his special moves work. But there are some things you could do that which you'll talk about in a little bit. Now, talking about his 5H, and this is getting into one of his unique mechanics, is going to be his gunshot. So basically, when you go inside of it, it's going to actually just pull out the gun, and you see the reticle actually comes out. Now, one thing you need to know about the reticle is that the reticle starting position is random. So sometimes it may start on the enemy, and you can get a shot off on them immediately. Sometimes it won't start on them. So you see right here, my first shots are missing. I keep resetting. Miss. That time it started on them. So it's a random chance that it will start closer to the enemy and you can get a shot off immediately, or it's a random chance it will start off of the enemy. Now over time it will actually lock on to the enemy. Now the enemy can start trying to like move away from it, and you know it will try to follow as best as it can. One thing to know about it though, when you have the gun out, you can actually, if you hit them, it will actually automatically lock onto them. So this will allow you to actually get combos. You don't have to worry about your combo not working because of the reticle still trying to follow them when they're far away. Now, the other thing, his 2H is going to be the way to put the gun back. So this is going to be how you do that. Now, one thing about this move that you should know is this move is completely different from his other normals in the fact that you can do this almost like as a special. Just think of it like it's independent of his other buttons, because you can do this at any time as long as you have concentration and as long as you have bullets. Now that is the other thing that is actually used. So his 5H is going to take concentration, which is one of his unique mechanics down there in the bottom left. As you can see, it is slowly draining, and when you shoot, it's going to take a bullet. So these are resources you're going to have to manage, which is going to be tied to his special moves for ways to try to refill them. One final tidbit about his 5H is when you're actually in the gun stance mode where he's using his concentration, you actually can't block. So you want to make sure that you are aware of this, and you want to cancel into that 2H when you think something is coming, or possibly roll or something like that to get out of the way, because you can't block while you're in the stance. So just keep that in mind. Now, talking about his jump normals, nothing crazy. He has a JP, which is pretty standard. His JK is like this little like kick move. One thing to know about this, reminds me of like Lil Wayne's kick if you ever played Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. It actually can't hit crouchers just like Lil Wayne, so keep that in mind. This is a button that you could use, but it's going to be good at air to air, but it's not going to be good air to ground. His best air to ground button is probably going to be his JS, but it doesn't have the best hitbox. It actually isn't disjointed, even though it looked like it is because of the gun flame, but don't keep in mind it isn't disjointed. His JH, once again, this is going to be the gunshot, so it's either going to pull out the gun or it's going to be shoot if you already have the gun out. He has the Iori kick from King of Fighters, so his JD is going to be something that hits from behind. It will not hit in front anyway, so it's only used for like a cross-up thing, so you're only going to be using it like that. And he does have a J2K, which is pretty unique to him, and this is going to allow him to basically like do a hop. He can actually control where he goes afterwards too, so if you hold back, he'll hop back. If you hold forward after the kick, he'll actually hop forward. So you do have a little bit of like choice of movement options for how you want to actually try to utilize that. I don't know exactly what you can do off of. I haven't really seen people like utilize that in a very unique way yet, but it is something that he can actually do. Just want to let you know. Lastly, talking about his command normal, starting off with 6P. His 6P is a very weird animation, but it does count as a 6P. It is a 6P. I don't know if it's, the best 6P, but he does get some pretty good combos on counter hit. He can use the gun and actually get a follow-up like that and actually start doing some pretty nice things. So for his combo potentiality from 6Ps is actually really, really good as far as that. But yeah, it is going to have the upper body invisibility like all the other ones. And yeah, just your standard 6P. It's not an overhead, even though it probably looks like one. His K is going to be this forward moving kick. This move is pretty good as using a lot of combos, so you will use this a lot. It actually is a low, so keep this in mind. So it is another low. So he has a 2K low, 2S low, 2D, and a 6K low. So he does have 4 lows at his disposal, which is actually pretty good. He also has the forward punch right here. So this is also going to be another good punch you could use. Yeah, it's just, just forward moving punch, nothing too crazy. One button we forgot to talk about actually is his close slash, which is going to be this right here. This is -2, so you can use it for pretty good stagger pressure for like, for tick throws and stuff like that. So it actually is pretty good for that. It's not plus, but you can still use it pretty well. Now, talking about Happy Chaos special moves, I like to categorize them in 3 different ways because he has so many and because they're on different buttons so people don't get confused. I want to make it a little bit easier for people. So starting off with his K buttons, I like to categorize these as his movement tool ones. This is going to give him access to the doppelganger and of course the actual roll. So he get the clone and then he can roll with the K button. The S button I like to categorize as the gun special move. So this gives him access to the gun whip out or the actual charge shot stance. So these are going to be something you use with the S button. And the P button I like to categorize as the resource button. So this is going to give him access to his focus and it's going to give him access to his curse toss. So the P button is going to be his resource button. And that's pretty much like how I like to categorize it. Just to make it easier on myself and for people that's trying to remember the buttons, I think it's a little bit way easier to memorize it that way. Now, talking about what these specials actually do, starting off with his roll, this is going to be similar to how Milia's roll work or dash through. So it is going to dash your opponents once you get to a certain, closeness to them. And it is going to have the ability to actually low profile things. You can see it actually does go under things as such, just like this. So you can use it to try to get under things, including like fireballs and stuff like that. So this is a pretty good tool to try to get underneath things and get closer to your opponent. You can actually use this in conjunction with the H shot. So if you have this out, you can start shooting like this. It is a little bit harder to like get this shot out, but we'll talk about a better way to do it in just a second. He has the clone. This is going to take like 10% of his life to actually do this, but it is going to put something in front of you. Now, the thing about this that you should know is that when you actually do this, you can actually be in front of it. And as long as the opponent hits it, it doesn't matter if they're in front of it, you won't get hit. So as like that, as you see, because I hit the clone, it didn't hit him. So if you're going to be hitting the clone, if you know the opponent's going to hit the clone, you shouldn't have any fear of the opponent hitting you outside of them throwing you. So this actually makes for a unique mind game of the opponent doesn't want to press a button that's close enough to hit the clone as well, because if they do, then it'll just go through and then you can potentially punish them. Now, one thing to know about the clone as well is they can actually special cancel off of it. So that's something to keep in mind. They can special cancel off this if you do happen to hit the clone. Special cancel and RC. So this is something that you should keep in mind. It does work like that. But, you know, it is your advantageous situation once they hit the clone because they have to commit to something like that. Now, talking about his S special moves or the gun ones, the 236S is going to be the gun pop out. So this is going to pop up the opponent when it's close to them. You know, you got to hit them with it. It is going to put you in gun stance though. So if you miss it somehow, you are still in gun stance. So you can actually use this to your benefit. Just keep in mind when you're in gun stance, you actually still can't block. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, it's pretty much used for like combos and block strings. It does have the big counter hit on it. So, you know, there's 3 different counter hit states. This is going to have the big one. So it will launch them up really high if you get a counter hit with this. And it's pretty safe on block. It's like -1. But you got to make sure that you do something afterwards because they can hit you if you just sit there. You can't block in the stance. So just keep that in mind. The other one is going to be the charge shot. So this actually uses a lot of your concentration. As you can see, a lot of it goes away really fast. But you get access to these shots, really powerful shots. Still takes your bullets, but access to shots. This is going to do increased damage for if you let the reticle actually charge. So you see if I do it normally, it does 41 damage. And if I let it charge, it does 62. It also pops them up higher. So not only you get more damage, but you actually pop them up higher in the air if you actually let the reticle fully zoom in on the opponent. So that's something to keep in mind as well when you're actually doing this for combos or you're trying to actually use it in block strings. One other thing to keep in mind for this, if you actually do happen to get this to be a fully charged shot on block, this actually does become a guard crush, which you can use in block strings and make yourself plus. So you can do stuff like if you happen to get it charged, you do this, go out of stance and stuff like that, and like try to create pressure strings like that and make it plus. So he actually can do some things like that if you happen to get the charge shot off. So just keep that in mind. Last thing about the charge stance, you actually can't move while you're in it. So the ways to get out of it or to actually move during it is you can actually do other specials. So you can roll from it, you can do the same special again that will take you out of it, or you can do any of your other specials. So you can focus, you can throw the ball, you know, any other thing you can do and that will take you out of it. So just keep that in mind that you can do other options out of like such as your special move to basically maneuver around your opponent to make sure they don't hit you when you're in this stance because you are vulnerable because you really can't move. So just keep that in mind. So talking about his P special moves or his resource special moves, starting off with the focus. So if you notice when you do the focus, it actually gives him a lot more meter or his bar back, his concentration, and it actually fills up faster. On top of it actually makes it to where it drains slower. So when I'm in the stance, see how much slower that actually drains compared to when I actually don't have it. Now, Curse is going to be this ball attack that you put on your opponent, and it's going to make it to where your reticle actually locks onto your opponent much better than it did before. So this is going to make his aim much better. So your enemies trying to run away and stuff, this is going to make it much easier for you to actually deal with this, and you're going to be able to do things a lot quicker. So this is going to be something that you can definitely utilize, and it's going to help you out tremendously for trying to either do like certain combos or just trying to lock down on your opponent. So just keep that in mind that the Curse is going to be very good for that. It doesn't actually do attack. It does bounce it, so it's pretty good. It's pretty hard for the opponent to try to, like, you know, get away from it. It's full screen. You actually can use it as an OTG, and it doesn't mess with your opponent's, like, your timing on anything. So if I wanted to, like, knock down my opponent, like, say, like, do something like this and then back up, that will actually hit them, and you see he does have it on him. So you could do this as like an Oki thing, like something like that goes on him and you have it on him just like that. So it could be pretty good for Oki situations like that too. And the last special move on his P button is going to be his reload. So his 2-2-P is going to be the reload, and you see he reload his bullets. This is going to be something you can actually cancel out of after the first bullet. So after the first bullet, you can actually cancel this into anything you want. So it could be a special move. I cancel into a special move like a roll or something. So if you see the opponent is trying to like stop you from doing this, you can stop their approach by just simply canceling after the first bullet. So keep that in mind because that's very important. And last two moves to go over are his supers. So starting off with his focus super, this super is going to give him all his meter back. So if he's out of meter, it's going to give it back to him and is going to put him in the same state he will go into once he does his focus. So once he does this, it's the same mode that he does when he goes in this. Now, this attack actually doesn't have any hitbox or anything like that, but because of the startup and recovery, you can actually use it in block strings and make it plus. So things like slow slash into this, into buttons, will make this plus. So just keep this in mind. There are a couple of things you can do into it that makes it plus. Now, talking about his other super, which is going to be his gun super, this is going to replenish his bullets. Now, the thing to keep in mind is this super doesn't have invul, so that means this is another character in the game besides Zato that has no meter reversal. So he doesn't have a meter reversal or a meterless reversal. So his defense, as far as reversals go, is pretty weak. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, so he can use this to replenish his bullets, and it pretty much hits anywhere on the screen. So you can use it, you know, to snipe other projectiles coming at you, or it shoots from behind. So if they try to cross you up, you can use it as a cross-up protection type thing as well. And it's just very good to, like, you know, break the wall and just like confirm combos from full screen and stuff like that. So pretty good super overall. Now that we talked about his normal specials and unique mechanics, let's go over some basic combos. And lastly, a few tips to help you out when playing Happy Chaos. So one thing to note is when you are trying to use role mix-ups, it is in your best interest to have Curse on. This will allow you to actually get the shot off very quickly like this. If you don't have it on, then you are leaving things up to chance, because once again, it's going to reset the reticle, which means you have a chance of potentially getting that actual hit, which we were talking about before. So just keep that in mind. That is not going to be guaranteed. Like right there, I got it, but keep in mind it is RNG of where the reticle is going to be. So if you want to not deal with that, make sure that you have Curse on when you're trying to utilize that. And as you can see from the combos that I gave you, you can see this character is quite tricky when getting your hands on him. But one thing to keep in mind, as I stated before, is to try to think of the gun as something separate from your normals. So I like to think of it as a way to hide my recovery, or a way to like give me time to recover. Because you can use it anytime while you're recovering, just use it as like that. So while you're recovering from anything, you can utilize this shot, and this will allow you to basically do other things. So you can like do it while you're running like that. Give me time to recover from my 2D, and then press the 6S. So that's basically essentially what I'm doing. So I'm basically allowing myself to recover, and then I'm pressing the button immediately after the shot, or I'm running with it. So like do 2D, shoot, and then I can like run and shoot. So after I hold the shot, you can start running and like just pressing the H button, and this will give you the combos that I was showing you before. So this is going to be something that's going to be very crucial to this character's game plan, and in his pressure too. So when you're doing pressure with Happy Chaos, utilizing something like this is going to be something that is going to definitely help his pressure game, because you want to basically give your time to recover so you can go for tricky mix-ups, like, you know, your poke throw game, and then keep the pressure on by just doing different things, giving your time to recover. You don't want to do it too fast like this. This gives you less frame data. You want to delay the shot as much as possible to give you time to actually recover so you can keep going. Now, of course, it's going to be a little bit different if you're trying to like bait out a DP and you want to make things like a true block string or something. That's a little bit different. But if you're trying to create this scary pressure game, then this is something you're going to want to utilize. And that is the scariness of his H, and why it can be very devastating to deal with once you realize that you can actually use this to cover yourself like that. Anyway, that is it for today's video. If you like anything I had to say, drop me a like. I greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, follow my socials. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications so the next video goes live. As always, my name is Daikin, and I'll see you next time. Signing out.